Let me walk you through a scenario. You're playing Borderlands. You want a gun that does a good amount of damage, a gun that shoots fairly accurate, a gun that has pretty good amount of bullets in the magazine, a gun that can have an element, like fire, corrosion, electricity, any of the elements that are in the game. What kind of gun do you think that is? Well, to me, that's a Dahl. And surprisingly, with Borderlands 4, and this is something we have known for a while, Dahl was not included. And I have some theories about that, but just to go back to this for a minute, I'm just surprised a little bit that there isn't Dahl in this game, because I've always just kind of considered the Dahl brand to just kind of be like your static gun choice. It was just kind of a safe gun, especially for people who maybe wanted to play Borderlands that maybe didn't vibe with the more silly guns, or people who maybe came from other first-person shooters that just wanted more of a classic feeling gun. And even for me, I've always kind of just vibed with the brand Dahl. I just think it's a neat, their weapons look neat, their weapons are cool, they have just a nice style to them, they fire well, they have a good feeling when you're playing the game. And so I was really shocked when I heard Dahl wasn't coming back. I just always felt like that was a good kind of just baseline gun for a big group of people that probably play Borderlands that are used to playing just more traditional first-person shooters. So why did they end up removing Dahl? And I think that there are some easy answers and some hard answers to that question. The easiest answer, and potentially the most likely, is just that it's what I said. It's a boring gun in a world of a lot of interesting guns. Maliwan is all elements. Hyperions were guns that fired more consistently the longer you held the trigger. Vladoff shoots fast. Jacobs does, really big crit damage and stuff like that. So when we look at Dahl's always just kind of been the static gun, the gun that is just a gun. So it's easy to look at that and think, if we're cutting something, why not cut this when, all of these guns are technically what it all is to some extent. But I think removing that choice is kind of problematic. Now, going from there, we could ask bigger questions, like, did they remove Dahl because they plan on bringing Dahl back at another point? Is Dahl going to be a part of, a DLC? Are we actually going to, have some kind of Dahl bad guy, like a bad guy from the corporation Dahl, and Dahl weapons will be reintroduced then? Or will Dahl become a weapons part in the future? Maybe there will be some story where, a Dahl ship crashes and the weapon parts get introduced into the loot pool, and, you'll be seeing Jacob's weapons with a Dahl barrel on them all of a sudden or something like that. Outside of that, though, I don't really know what would be the reason of removing Dahl. Dahl feels like such a safe bet. In the ocean of, more interesting weapons, why not have a weapons manufacturer that is just kind of a more safe bet? They've already removed some of the elements, even Hyperion. Hyperion isn't even in the game anymore outside of being a weapons part manufacturer. So, that was a gun that didn't have a whole lot of interest to a lot of people. I don't think a ton of people liked the fact that Hyperion guns, you had to fire them for so long for them to even become accurate. There was a reason they stepped away from using Hyperion as a sole manufacturer, and now it's just a part of other guns. But I feel like Dahl really wasn't a bad weapon. If you even argue that Hyperions weren't a bad weapon, but then Dahl is definitely not a subpar weapon or a bad weapon. I think it's a weapon that maybe has its certain use case scenarios, and maybe some people don't use them because they are more boring. But, having a boring weapon kind of makes you surprised and excited when you see more special weapons, and even at times Dahls, when they're legendaries or they have the right attachments or something, could be very interesting. This makes me surprised as to why Dahl was totally removed from the game, and that's why I think that there must be some plan for either reintroducing Dahl at a later point, maybe with some kind of slight difference, like still making it still a more basic operating weapon, but maybe like with some kind of smaller, stipulation, like maybe it is even more accurate, but it, has a smaller magazine, or, maybe they implement some kind of like recoil pattern to it that, is special. I don't know. Some kind of thing that still leaves it in a more basic state compared to, a Malalon or a Daedalus, that is more special, but, something that at least makes it stand out slightly, makes it more unique, makes it something that maybe somebody will go like, oh yeah, I'll try that out. And I guess that's what I would like to see. I'd like to see it all be given a second chance. Because again, I just really like the style of those weapons. I think they're neat. I think that they're fun to use. There are times that I want to play just like with a basic weapon. I want to use something in a boss fight that's just, a gun. And I think that they operate well. They are fun to use. Dahl weapons just are consistent weapons. They just do well across the board. And do they do everything amazingly? No, but that's kind of the beauty of them, is they're just kind of a static weapon that, has a good sized magazine, does a good amount of damage, is fairly accurate. So what I want to see going forward is pretty easy. I would like to either see Dahl come back, like I said, in like a DLC, or at some point as like a content drop in the, roadmap going forward for Borderlands 4. I'm hoping that, whether or not it's just Dahl comes back in the same state that it's always been, which is personally what I'm kind of just hoping for. But even if it's something where they, try to put a little bit of a gimmick on it to, make it more interesting, make it, stand on its own two legs inside the Borderlands universe, make it a little more comparable to what other weapons do, make it stand out. Well, I like the inclusion of like a gun like Daedalus, which I think has taken a lot of inspiration from Dahl in a way. I just think it's not quite what I want, and it doesn't have the right look and feel to it that, what Dahl used to have. So yeah, I'm hopeful that we see Dahl return. I'm hopeful that it, operates fairly similar to how it did. And honestly, like, I would love to see it be a DLC. Like, if they give us a DLC where we are taking on like a CEO of Dahl, or a person who works for Dahl, or, something happens where like the Dahl manufacturer's like ship crashes on the planet, like I said previously. I think all of that would be really interesting, because Dahl Corporation, we don't know a ton about. Like, I know Axton, I believe, from Borderlands 2 is a part of the Dahl organization, but I don't think that we have a lot of information about what Dahl really is outside of just, what we know about Axton and what we know just kind of generally about the company based off their guns. So I think, it's even more militaristic. So I'm sure that they could do a really neat military story with it, where like maybe they come in and, are very militaristic. And like maybe they take over a portion of the map, like the planet. And, we have to like, they could even do like a story where they set up bases like across the map, and we have to actually like go and like liberate the bases from the military like uprising. That would be kind of neat. But yeah, I just think it'd be cool. I think it'd be cool if Dahl came back. I think it'd be cool if we actually worked into the story. I still think it's weird. Like, Dahl's been there pretty much since the start, right? Didn't Dahl exist in Borderlands 1? I'm pretty sure. So I think it's weird that they cut Dahl. Dahl feels like one that's really oddly cut. Like, Hyperion at least made some sense, because I think it was kind of a gun that nobody really used. Like, when I say nobody really used, I don't mean like nobody used it, because even I used Hyperion guns, but I feel like it's kind of always been a general like sentiment inside the Borderlands community that the Hyperion weaponry just doesn't, cut it, like, on the gun side, like, with the fact that you have to shoot for so long, and, like, half of your magazine or more is gone by the time you really start feeling the benefits of it. That's just kind of a poor design choice that ultimately leads to, I think, people choosing other weapons over it, even though, like, yes, if I'm in the right situation and, like, a really great Hyperion weapon drops, of course I'm going to pick it up. But ultimately, the second I find a better weapon, like if I find another legendary or another purple that, is of a better manufacturer, I'm probably going to drop the Hyperion at that point. So yeah, I just hope that we finally get an answer for what's going on with Dahl. I know this is probably like a thing that only interests so many people. So if it does interest you, let me know in the comments what you think about, Dahl, if you think he'll return, if you think he'll be in a DLC, if you think that they need to come up with kind of a new manufacturer, whatever you're thinking. Leave a like, leave a, comment about what you're thinking. Consider subscribing to the channel. I have videos like this every day. I just did a video on Skate. It's kind of like early impressions of the new Skate game. And before that, I had a video about Black Ops 7 Zombies. So you can check out those videos. And I just want to thank everyone for watching recently. And I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day. And I will catch you all in the next one. All right. Thanks, everybody. Peace out.